I'd like to welcome you to this special meeting where we are going to speak regarding attorneys for the George's appointment for city council issue. So we're going to begin the meeting with a pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Milan.
I am here.
Councilmember Anderson.
Present.
Councilmember Sampson.
Here.
Councilmember Shepard. Here. That is an active quorum, Madam Mayor.
Wonderful. We're going to begin this evening with public comment. If anyone in the public would like to speak, just come on up to the microphone, state your name, address if you'd like, and speak.
Susan Moffett, 726 Drian. I have two things I'd like to say. The first thing is, of course, that I once again call on Mr. George's to do the honorable thing and step away from this whole process so that the city can begin moving forward, not have to spend additional time and money over this nonsense. And so, again, just a plea to him to resign and let the city move forward. The second thing I'd like to say is, as you're selecting attorneys, I think I would like to implore you to select someone with expertise in municipal law. I draw an analogy between medical things. If you had a cancer, you wouldn't go to a primary care physician. You would go to someone with the expertise in cancer. And so I think it's imperative that you choose wisely and make sure that you pick an attorney whose expertise will correctly guide the ship and remove the cancer. That's all I got.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Would anyone else like to speak?
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Nate Hara. I live in 413 Park Drive in Clawson for 11 years now. Thank you again for opening up this discussion. I think the public outcry against the events that transpired on November 3rd have been well established, and the pain and suffering associated with that event and with the short staffedness that we have in the city offices now has been well established. I think everybody wants to move on. My question is simply this, and Mr. Shepard, I hold you in high regard. I've heard good things about you. I applaud you for the courage that it took to support and second the motion for this discussion to happen, and for the city attorney's support to be open-minded about it as well. I don't understand how the public documents that show when the previous council members and mayor's term expired on November 2nd, I don't understand why we call it a quorum that happened on November 3rd, how those decisions to take, Mr. George's off and back on to the council, I don't understand the legitimacy of that. If someone could explain it to me, that would be great. It's rare I've seen in this council for the motions that rapidly take place to be followed up with a motion to discuss, an MTD as I call it. So when that happens, I'm left with the impression that either I'm not supposed to know what the reason for these votes are, or I'm not respected enough to be deserving of such knowledge. And I don't know if that's your intent. I would hope not, but that's the impression that comes my way. So if you can, please explain why you seconded these motions and why you felt that there was that quorum, because as I understand it, this is yet more money, as Ms. Moffett has suggested, that we have to spend more time that we have to spend, which is money and time that won't be spent getting the city, carried on into the future with obviously pressing needs today that need to be taken care of. So again, thank you for your service, thank you for your commitment to the community, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much. Do we have anyone else?
I'm Gail Moying. I live on Key West, 53 years, over 53 years. My husband's a third generation Clawson. My kids, fourth and fifth. I haven't been to the council meeting in a long time. I never thought in a million years I'd be standing here before you right now. But I am, because of all the shenanigans that we've seen go on, the city managers we've been through, our taxes are not little. And I was at the last meeting, and if I understand correctly, our city attorney suggested that the person with the next highest votes should have that seat. And is that correct? When Mr. Anderson asked you 3 times, you said that probably should be what we should do?
I can address that at the end, or,
Okay.
this is not a question and answer for me, ma'am, that's why, but I'm
Okay.
happy to do so.
Anyway, now we're going to spend more money getting the advice of another attorney when our attorney that we are paying has said the next vote should be that seat. My taxes aren't going down, and my money, I think, is being wasted. And like I said, never in a million years did I think I'd be standing here, but enough's enough. Come on, really? That's all.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Do we have anyone online?
Does not appear so, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Thank you all for your coming here this evening.
No one
and
online
sharing.
at this time, Madam Mayor?
Okay, great. Then we have a motion, well, I'd like to make a motion to allow our city treasurer to come forth. She has an item we'd like to add to this agenda. So she is asking us for consideration of placing special assessment amounts for operations and maintenance of the Oakland County drains and lake level control facilities on the winter 2021 tax rolls. And the reason she needs to come tonight and add this to the agenda is so that, because the tax bills are going out on December 1st, and she wants to get this on there. So if
I'll make that
you
motion.
agree, thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, if we need it.
Oh, okay.
To add it to the-
To add it? Okay,
add it to the
we
agenda.
are at Anderson.
Yes.
Mayor Milan?
Yes,
Councilmember Sampson?
Yes.
Councilman Shepherd?
Yes.
So we'll add that as item, did you want the item A or B?
Make it A.
A? You did make the motion, so we'll go with A. Thank you.
call.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Shame on me. I never do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll eventually stick it in the packet. Thank you.
Is this where we ask technical questions of Stacy?
Yes. Well, good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. Thank you for allowing me to come up here this evening on such short notice. I really appreciate it. As Mayor Milan said, our tax bills are going out next week, and this is an item that was omitted from the council agenda last time when we were doing the delinquent city billings, and that was my error. It should have been on the agenda, but this is the first for us for doing assessments, the drain level assessments. All of the parcels, there's 1,649 parcels, and as you can see, if you flip through all of the parcel numbers, the dollar amounts are very nominal. They're like 1,318 of the 1,600 parcels are less than $4. And so I'm here before you this evening to ask your permission to spread it on to the December 1st, 2021 tax
Mayor?
bill.
I want to ask one question. You said this is the first time we've done this?
Yes, yes.
So what's new?
The new is that in the prior years, they weren't spread, and we decided that it's a better practice that each individual parcel pay its share instead of the city remitting payment.
So the city used to cover these costs, and now we're assigning them to the individual users?
Yes, yes.
Interesting.
And Mayor, move The special assessment amounts for operations and maintenance of the Ogun County drains and lake level controls facilities be placed on the winter 2021 tax rolls totaling $5,916.34.
Second.
Anyone else?
I do have a question, Mayor. I just took a quick look at the various assessments based on parcels. As you said, most of them are very nominal, but one jumped out at me as like 100 and something. Is there a reason for such a large differential?
Yes, it's because they have a large surface area, and I spoke to this wonderful gentleman in Oakland County this afternoon, and he gave me this whole education on how they compute these dollar amounts. And there's this whole software that they use and a formula, and that if there is more ground space and not grass space, it's computed higher. It's most likely it would be a commercial property.
I see. So in other words, a property that had a large amount of what we call impermeable surfaces that had to be drained off, say parking lots, roofs and the like.
Yes, yes.
So basically it looks like a few certain businesses in town will have to carry a heavier load than their average
Right.
resident at $2 or $3. Okay.
Right. There are about 40 parcels that are more than $10 out of
Okay.
the 1,649.
Sure.
Everything else is, as I said,
Okay.
pennies.
Thank you.
Is there a means of notification for these people? Because if you're getting a $2 one, some people won't notice, and other people will say, why am I being assessed an additional $2.92 under a separate category where I've never been assessed that before? And the people with the larger sums are certainly going to be a little bit more annoyed. So are we informing people that this applies to, why they're getting that additional assessment this year?
I can mail out a mailing to those parcels that are above a certain threshold and give them notice, but no notice has gone out.
Okay. Okay. Anyone?
Call the vote.
Mayor Milan?
Yes?
Councilmember Sampson?
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd? Yes. Councilmember Anderson?
Yes.
And it passes.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Stacy.
Stacy, for looking into that and presenting it.
So the next item is the reason we're here this evening, which is selection of outside counsel to provide an opinion in respect to the appointment of George Georges to Clawson City Council. Mr. Nushai, would you mind giving a brief update?
Sure.
Why we're here today? Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, obviously, as you will recall, but for the benefit of everybody else, this issue with respect to the appointment arose a couple of meetings ago, and it's important that a determination be made, and by determination, we have an attorney opinion. My office recused ourselves because we represent the body, the entire body. Anytime we have an issue about one member of the body or that creates a fracture in the representation of the body as a whole, and we have to render an opinion that would be to the detriment of the one, perhaps to the benefit of another, obviously, it fractures that relationship, attorney-client relationship. It's an impermissible conflict of interest that is created. Therefore, we must recuse ourselves, and we have done so. Council, in its wisdom, said this particular meeting today, in order to be able to ascertain what an attorney to handle the issuing of that opinion. That opinion is an attorney opinion, just like I would have in ideal conditions, just like any other opinion that I grant, that I give to the city, to this body. I think it's important, though, particularly in this matter, because it'll obviously help us move forward and proceed in reasonable, lawful manner. I had recommended a couple of names last time to council. There's been a few recommendations that have come in. I sent council an email early, or like sometime in the afternoon, and I mentioned that I'd had a couple of emails, a couple of people that recommended 4 individuals, between them an attorney, Stephen J. Hitchcock, out of Jamarca Mullins, which is a firm in Troy, attorney Paul Burns from the Paul E. Burns Law Offices, attorney Don Denault from O'Reilly Rensselaer, and attorney Dave Ferrata from Apex Advisors. Also, I see that our esteemed clerk has left me an email that he received apparently early today
about 15 minutes before we walked in the room,
Thank you. And
That kind of a day.
which is why it's highlighted and just thrown on your chair.
thank you. And the recommendation here is for Attorney Donald R. Chisholm out of Royal Oak. These are just, again, people, had, recommendations, various recommendations for attorneys. Council is, of course, entirely free to hire whomever they want to issue this particular opinion. I happen to know, with the exception of one, I think Mr. Burns, I know all the attorneys involved, and I know they're all perfectly capable of issuing this opinion. They're all pillars of our legal community. And some I know more than others, and I can say that they're actually exceptional lawyers. So I'm happy to address any questions you may have, obviously.
Can we add any more?
Obviously, it's, so the attorney-client relationship is governed by the client, and this body is the client, and the body can determine whomever it pleases. It could be any one of these attorneys, it could be any other attorney. It's just entirely up to you, obviously.
I guess from a perspective that, a judge or a magistrate, in my opinion, have a better viewpoint from this. Just because that's, just in my general opinion, that's what they would do in the course of their business. So with that said, I was looking at other district courts in the area, Rochester and Madison Heights. Out of Rochester, Nancy Karniak, Lisa Asadorian, and out of 43rd, Michael Mitchell.
So if I may address the names, I'll take them backwards. So Mike Mitchell, which is out of the 43rd, you may not know this. He's a magistrate. It's a part-time that, he works more than 40 hours with that part-time, to be perfectly honest with you. But he's technically a lawyer in my office.
Oh,
his address is in my office. So I didn't forget him. I just consciously did not put him in there. Okay.
I'd have to recuse myself anyway, because I donated to his campaign.
So,
And I had his lawn signs all over all my properties.
Exactly. So, he would be perfectly appropriate for this,
Sure.
but for obvious reasons. Obviously, you shouldn't have somebody out of my office because we've recused ourselves. So the conflict of interest would apply to all of them.
Is there a reason why you hit that in his background, or? No, it's fine.
It speaks for itself. So
okay.
the other, and just so you were going forward with respect to Judge Karniak and Judge Asadorian, actually they're not magistrates; they're judges, so they're fully elected to those positions. And our judges wouldn't be able to do this. The only way that it would go in front of a judge would be a judge of the circuit court, and it would be on if it's challenged by any member of the community or anybody that would have standing. So a judge, for example, like our judges here, Judge Hardig and Judge McGinnis, they wouldn't be able to do this. The rules that we have, they wouldn't allow it.
Okay.
Anyone else have any comments about the
Well, I'll
names?
just say, I know David Parada personally, so that would be one that I would, just from that relationship that he and I have, I would say that probably not discount, but probably should not move forward with him.
You said probably not move forward with them?
No, not. I mean, I think he's capable, but again, I think it's personal relationship.
Well, the Stephen Hitchcock firm, does anybody know them?
I read their bio. I read everyone's bios, anything I could find on
I can
them.
tell you the conflict there. Mike Bosnick is a citizen attorney in Clawson, really a good one. I donated to his campaign, or he donated to my campaign, and he donated to yours too.
Mm-hmm.
So he's part of that firm.
But he's not Stephen Hitchcock.
No, that firm could be tainted by it. I wouldn't do that to Mike because if you just think about it, if it goes one way, people are going to say, well, it was tainted because Mike was behind the scenes. If it goes the other way, people are going to say it was tainted because Mike was behind the scenes. So I wouldn't do it to Mike. He's a great guy. Let's not put him in a position like that and even bring that firm in. Is that a good thought, Mr. Newshy? Would you go with that?
Obviously, that's the stance. I know Mike
Yeah,
I've
he's
known
a great guy.
I've known Mike for my entire professional career. He's a friend of mine. I supported his campaign. I worked on his campaign. I donated to his campaign. He's a friend of mine. So obviously, I would be, he's eminently capable. He is a municipal attorney and he is a magistrate. So obviously, he would have my vote, but I can't give him my vote just on account of the fact that I would have a conflict. It would be improper of me to say so. So I
It would
think
be
those
improper
are-
for me.
But he's not on the list.
Because, yeah,
Mike's
he
not on
He's
the list.
referring to
Yeah,
Hitchcock, right.
Me?
He's referring to Hitchcock,
No.
not to Bosnick.
I am referring to Bosnick.
He was
Okay, he was referring to
He's
Hitchcock
referring to-
because of Bosnick.
Correct.
He's on the firm.
Okay, so it's small
If you pull up the
community.
papers, his picture's number 4. So,
It's also a large firm, and that gentleman does municipal law, and I'm going to tell you, I want someone who does municipal law. So our list didn't have many, so I think we're going to have to get a little a little
Can I-
more lenient on what we're thinking.
Mayor, can I ask a question?
Of course.
So everybody's concerned here about the connection to Mr. Bosnick. You know Mr. Bosnick, you know him, you like him. I know Mr. Bosnick. I know him, I like him.
I know.
Like him,
Our sons
like
are
him.
friends, that's how I know him, right?
Mr. Shepherd, how familiar with Mr. Bosnick, and do you have any issue with him?
Very familiar.
And do you have any issues with him?
I think in this situation, he's probably a little too close to what we're looking at.
Granted, I'm not
Not on our
proposing
list.
him.
No, I understand.
But basically, this gentleman's an extension of him.
Sure. And what I was looking at was something, Troy's a little too close, in my opinion. I would like to go farther out. If it could be Escanaba, I would prefer that, all right? But probably not going to happen. So anything that's close to Troy, that's probably not, I would not support that, because it's too close.
Well, Mr.
We
Shepherd-
share information that's on a daily basis in news, and I think that's inappropriate.
We're asking someone to make a determination based on our charter, not a determination based on the Clausen headlines over the past 2 or 40 or 80 years. As Mr. Nushai has stated repeatedly, no one is going to, let me get this right, no one's going to trade their lucrative career as an attorney for a $1,000 gig for a city of Clausen. And
Agree.
I think if everybody knows each other, members of the bar are all friends in some factor or another. You've either sat on committees together, sat across each other in courtrooms, or, confabbed together over things. We're going to have a hard time if we go through I know this one, they know that one. What we need is someone who has integrity. I think we could all agree, and I'm not even saying Mr. Bosnick's, the gentleman from that firm, was my first choice. I will say, though, if you're going to select someone who has integrity, I think we can all assume Mr. Bosnick has always shown impeccable integrity to our community. We did not put him on our list because we wouldn't put him in that position to live here and have to address these concerns. However, ruling someone out that has the skills that I personally would want because they know someone is not necessarily a good way to go.
It isn't part of knowing, it's Mike's part of the firm. Is there a way you guys can do a wall, Chinese wall, they used to call it, to make sure Mike doesn't talk anything about it? It can't be done.
Yeah, I can't speak as to how they would do this in Mike's firm.
We can't.
I can speak about my firm, obviously, but and when I recuse myself, I recuse my entire firm,
Yeah.
all 9 of us. But that said, it is a big firm. Anything is, yeah.
I mean, it takes a phone call, right? For anybody here, anybody we select could get a phone call from any random person. So if we're trying to just eliminate that, or that's not going to happen. So let's go to characteristics of who's looking for what, and let's eliminate people based on characteristics, not whom they work for.
That's a big part,
Mayor,
too.
I have a kind of statement to make. I agree generally when you're trying to find a mediator, you want somebody who's far away from everybody in here. But the key is the mediation is between this council. So although it's good to have distance, I think it's okay that we have closeness as long as we're all in agreement as to the character of the person we're close to. All of us have nothing but favorable things about Mr. Bosnick, and of course, Mr. Bosnick isn't going to be involved in this. But even anyone affiliated with his firm basically is a person who's affiliated with somebody who we all agree has good character. So yes, I agree that distance is generally good. If he was close to some of us and not close to others, then yes, I would agree, take him off the list. But we all seem to have a consensus position. I find that very refreshing, that all of us agree that Mr. Bosnick has good character, and I think it's safe to assume anyone that practices law with him has good character. So that's why I'm on board with Mr. Hitchcock.
I disagree. I think it's too close. We got a lot of candidates. Let's go through them all and figure out which ones we want, and then we'll argue over just,
Okay,
because it seems like this is your number one person.
I don't have a number one person. I didn't state a number one person. I was stating the reason that people want to eliminate someone who is extremely qualified. If you looked at his information, it's ridiculous. I was just trying to state the obvious, which is anybody could make a phone call. Anyone on this dais can make a phone call. Anyone out there can make a phone call. You might not know someone, but you might know someone who knows someone. We're not guaranteed that we're getting an unbiased person, period. I would assume people with moral character behave with good moral character in all aspects of their life, including a $1,000 potential gig from the city of Clawson, which is extremely important to us, but would be a flash in time for them. So given that aside, I personally would like to state that I want someone that has municipal experience. So anyone on this list that does not have previous municipal experience does not have my vote. What other characteristics, what are your key characteristics?
They need to be far away from the city.
Okay, your key
So I think
characteristics?
as far as when it comes down to determination of our charter and what took place, I think that whether it's a municipal or they're highly qualified to do what they're doing, I think the appearance that I see from having a firm that's on the other side of 16 Mile is just a little too close. I think that has some appearance that you would want to try to avoid, I would think. And again, it's not about whether or not they're unqualified, right? Again, I think anybody on this list is probably more than qualified to do that, to make that decision. It's then about, okay, what are we trying to avoid so that we don't go into further exacerbating, what people perceive about this. So I'd just like to be as far away and, find somebody who has the credibility, as we've talked about, to do this. And if it goes into a different county, I think that's even better.
Mr. Sampson, what are you looking for?
2 tiers away from Clawson.
2 tiers away from Clawson, what does that mean?
Macomb, Genesee, counties that are out far, just exactly what he's saying. So they didn't hear the rumors, they're not tainted with.
The first thing someone's going to do is pull up Clawson and figure out what's going on. And if no one has heard about what's going on in Clawson over the past 2 years, and they're anywhere in this area, counties away, they're living under a rock because we've made national news. So, and that's not out of disrespect, but that's just a fact. So you want to go further out? How about you, Mr. Anderson, Councilmember Anderson?
I'm of the same mindset as you. I think they should have municipal experience. My sister's an adoption attorney. I guess I could throw her name in the mix, but I don't think she'd take the gig because she wouldn't feel that it'd be appropriate.
And I would too.
So, thank you. Glad we agree, Lou. So with that, again, distance, I guess that is a benefit. But I guess the key thing is, again, I'm not an attorney, I'm not an expert in mediation, but if you're going to find someone to mediate a dispute, distance is good, having no relationships is good. All that's done to ensure there's no bias in the system.
Right.
Now, that said, I don't think those are necessarily the prerequisites all the times. If the mediator is respected by all the parties involved, I don't think distance is required.
But we're not talking about just us. Say we take Hitchcock. Whichever way he votes, because we know we're split.
Sure.
Whichever way he votes, the other side's going to do things like Mike's part of the legal firm. Why did they pick them? No, and let me finish. Whose lawn signs are up on the sign? The people that like you guys and don't like me, they're gonna say, Lou's sign was on Bosnick's. No.
I know people that like me and like you. I can't figure it out, but it's true.
But there's people,
Pound me, that was a joke.
it was a very bad one, but.
It was not, it was a good joke, I
there's-
got laughs.
Well, because there's people gonna remember your sign on there, and there's people gonna remember my sign. So I'm not gonna put Mike in that position to taint his whole firm.
Again.
And have people,
We're not voting on Mike.
no,
okay?
but we're
So
voting on that firm.
let's go past that one. But, okay, so we're giving up a firm that specializes in municipal law in our area with very well-respected people who have performed their jobs for decades
Well, 'cause Mike was-
because of someone that lives in our community that supports people, right? Like, it doesn't make sense. But if that's what you go by, I'll honor that. That's fine. So whom do we have on this list that is outside of Oakland County that has municipal experience?
Don
I
Deneau.
think, pardon me?
Don Deneau does.
Was he on our list?
Yes, he's on the list.
There's also
There was an email from earlier today.
the gentleman from Brighton.
That Paul Burns,
Yes.
you look him up, you just
I
find.
did look him up.
Very little on him.
He's a municipal attorney.
I couldn't even find that.
I'll
I
show,
can
I'll
find
show
out
you,
he's-
I'll show you a couple articles. They're kind of fun.
What's wrong with Don Denault?
Does he have municipal experience? I don't remember which one's which, to be honest with you.
Yes, so.
Offhand, I had my favorites.
Don Deneau, Jr., is one of the top-rated state, local, and municipal attorneys in Sterling Heights.
Too close. He's in Oakland County.
That's not right.
Sterling Heights is Oakland
Did
County.
they move it again?
Sterling Heights is in Macomb County?
Yeah.
Well, that's only one. We need two separations, if I recall our
Butts right
recent-
up
that's-
against Troy, so,
Yeah, I mean-
again, how far do you want to go with geography? I don't know.
You were just saying that you were looking at somebody who has municipal experience.
Yes.
He does.
And I'll
And he
give-
satisfies the requirement that we were looking for distance.
I'll give
So-
one tier up. I'm not,
Okay.
as long as it's not Oakland County.
You give one up. That was great. You know what, I had issue with that. I had a reason he's not on my list,
I'm sure you did.
because I'm very balanced in my thought processes. Thank you. What, Rennis, did we discuss Lauren from Traverse City that people seem to adore?
I didn't offer her on account of the last experience. Again, I think the world of her. I think she's one of the most capable attorneys that we have in the municipal world. She's, as I indicated, I think you were on council when she came to do our little training. I think she's an avid contributor to our Municipal Attorneys Association. But again, the reason I didn't mention a few of these people that obviously I care deeply about, and I think the world of, like one of them being Mike, one of them being Lauren, is that they have relationships with, council and with this. She was obviously King Sips, and she worked with John in her time. So I didn't offer her, but again, council's choice, but that's the reason why I didn't bring that name forth.
Wait, you said she was competent, you said she was liked and well-trained, so we don't want her, why?
Just on account of her obviously having already a relationship with the city, based on this conversation that's transpiring, obviously I think I was correct in that it would be some sort of a lightning rod. But that's why I didn't offer her. That's not to say that you shouldn't hire her. It's entirely your choice, obviously, but that's the reason why.
Yeah, I don't know her. I just sat in the one meeting with her when I was off council, actually, already, so. All I care is that it's someone that's respected, someone that has municipal experience, someone that,
Was it Don Denault? They got that, and it's not in Oakland County? Yeah, so that wins. Anybody know him?
how do you get on the list?
So
I have no idea.
I received, so I know Don Denault, but I don't know him. I know him professionally. I don't know him personally. He is.
He's a youth baseball coach. I think that's too close for you. I think you might know him with your kids.
No, I think he's beyond that.
It says right here, youth baseball coach.
So O'Reilly Rancilio is a firm that they probably have 20 or 30 municipal contracts all throughout Macomb County. He does, I know he does Sterling Heights, and I know he does a couple others, but he doesn't, we don't get to see him because he does council stuff when we deal with, with the firm, we deal usually with somebody with the younger attorneys. So that's all that firm does, municipal law. The other recommendation that we have for Don Chisholm, you may not know the name. Scott and I know the name. He is, I presume, correct me if I'm wrong, we would both recommend him highly. He is our magistrate here in Troy, magistrate in Royal Oak, an attorney for 60 years. Excellent at what he does. He's actually retired from the practice of law, only does the 2 magistratings part-time. I would recommend him. I think Scott would agree for what it's worth. And he, that's what I think is part of his practice was municipal law.
Who is this?
Don Chisholm is out of Royal Oak. There's an email that
He was the last minute candidate.
yeah, August received that email.
He's been lauded in all the magazines and stuff over the years. I remember seeing his things.
So and you don't use this as a disqualifying factor, but only as just more information to the fodder. He was in a law firm originally when he first started. I happen to know all the city attorneys that Clausen has ever had. I don't know, this is my luck in life, I think. And he was in a firm with Steve Andrews, former city attorney for Clausen, then famous judge in Oakland County Circuit Court, and Judge Drury, who was one of our judges in Troy, for Troy and Clausen, obviously, for the longest time prior to his retirement. And the law firm was the building across the street.
Avery's building?
I'm sorry?
Avery's building?
The building,
MEP.
whatever, the engineers.
Right here.
Oh, okay.
Engineers.
I remember him.
Kitty corner.
Yeah, obviously, and he used to, but then, for 50 years, he practiced out of Royal Oak, and he did the magistrating, and so I would recommend him. He wasn't my choice, it didn't come through me, but he would be someone that this council can trust.
You said he's retired?
I'm sorry?
He's retired?
He's retired. He does the magistrating still, at least 1 or 2 days out of Troy and Royal Oak. I don't know.
Mostly in Royal Oak, covers 1 or 2, he's one of 4 out of the 52-4 in Troy.
Yeah, 1 of 4 magistrates in the 52-4.
Mr. Shepherd, would you entertain that at all?
Yeah, but
Would you? I would too.
You realize he's in Oakland County, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
There's 0 degrees of separation.
Both them 2 gentlemen recommended them, so I trust them too.
Do you?
I motion we select Don Chisholm to review this.
Mind you, we'll have to, pardon me, before there's a second, we'll have to reach out to the mayor, because I don't know, because the email came from a citizen. It didn't come from any of us. I don't know that anybody, I don't know if,
I think most of these did, right?
Sorry?
Most of these
yeah,
did.
they all did. I mean, the ones that I sent this afternoon, the 4 of them that I sent this afternoon, as well as this 5th one that August had received, they came from citizens. So we'll have to reach out to him. Yeah.
He's retired, right?
He is retired. He does only the magistrate.
Oh,
We may have to be back on this one.
Maybe he's in Florida, so that.
No, he's not in Florida.
I was just saying, if he is, that satisfies the 18 degrees of separation.
And once again, both of you recommend him?
I do.
His
I've
resume
known
says,
Magistrate Chisholm for years, very professional. I dealt with him on different issues down in Royal Oak as well as Troy. He, for years, he was mostly Royal Oak. He would fill in at Troy. Then he came up here, and he's, like I say, he's 1 of 4, works a day or 2 to fill in. He still does most of his magistrating out of the Royal Oak District Court, though.
his resume says family law, wills, child custody, construction, sales, and use tax. It does not mention municipal law.
Yeah, so the firm, well, and I can't speak to it because obviously he's been retired for a while too, so it's not, this didn't happen yesterday, the retirement, I don't think. But I know just based on his practice with And actually, I'm selling him, but I don't know that he wants me to sell him, to be perfectly honest with you. So I may be coming back for another meeting, which I don't want. But because, like I said, both Steve Andrews and Judge Jury, so Judge Andrews and Judge Jury did municipal law, and I think he himself, I don't think he was city attorney here, but he was through their other practice. So I think he would be appropriate, but, I can't speak, so I guess I can't really truly address your question on that.
Since nobody seconded my motion, I'm going to change it, that we select Don Chisholm as our first choice, and Don Denault, be easy to remember his first name, Don Denault is our second choice.
I'll second that.
That way you don't have to come back. You got two places to go. Seconded.
Not good with that, but you can vote.
Okay. It's Sampson,
Yes.
Shepherd,
Yes.
Anderson,
No.
Milan.
No.
That fails.
Now, I would allow you to have your first choice. If you make our second choice, someone that I might personally like, which after all of this conversation has to be the guy at Horton, Gianmarco, and Mullins, Mr. Steve
Hitchcock.
Hitchcock, yes. Because we have as much connection right here as we will have anywhere else. And then I personally believe his firm will be well represented, and if he can't do it, perhaps someone else in this firm can do it. Not Mike Bosnick, of course. I think it's just wise for us.
But it's still, I would prefer somebody get on a phone, call Mike Bosnick and see if he wants us to do that to him. Because it's a thing about the presence of him being in the firm. And in Clausen, that could be a big thing.
I would say they're professionals and let them decide.
But the citizens are the ones that will have the complaint, and I don't want that anymore.
Did you have something to say, Mr. Anderson?
Pardon?
Did you have something to say? Thought you were going to.
Yeah, I find the whole process kind of fascinating because I agree that in general, to maintain objectivity, you want somebody who's from far away. But if you can't do that, if you want somebody close, then you're looking for people who endorse their character and the qualifications. So Mr. Chisholm, apparently these two gentlemen think highly of, but he's close. But because these two have said he's a good choice, the closeness doesn't seem to be an issue.
And
But when we're all,
None of us
let me
know.
figure.
None of us know him. That's a great idea.
Again,
Perhaps.
but these gentlemen do, and he's close. Flipping it the other direction, we have four people who really don't know Mr. Hitchcock, but we know Mike Bosnick. We trust Mike Bosnick's judgment. So we're going to assume Mike Bosnick practices with somebody that has good judgment. So with that, I'm just kind of spinning it back again. Distance is preferred if we have issues with the individual, but Mike Bosnick and presumably his partners have no issue with any of the four of us. And again, we're trying to resolve what's going on here. I don't think there's a mass of Clausen voters who are going to rise up with pitchforks and say, oh my God, you got one of Bosnick's henchmen going to get into this? I don't think that's the situation. Mike Bosnick's lived in this community for years. He's respected. And he's close to us. Now, it'd be one thing if one of us said, yeah, I hate that. I'm close to that Bosnick and I hate his guts. I don't want anything to do with him. But I'm not hearing any of that. So that's why I'm thinking that Mr. Hitchcock is not necessarily, I don't think he's any better or worse than the proposal of Mr. Chisholm.
And Mike Bosnick, should you be watching, or whomever is watching and is going to
I
tell
won't
Mike
hear.
Bosnick, you're welcome for all this free advertisement and for the love fest that you're getting from Clausen City Council today. Right?
It is well earned, I can say that.
Did you make a motion, Madam Mayor, or not? You just
Sure.
suggested that.
Yes, I made a
Okay, you did the motion for, it was Don Chisholm with Steve Hitchcock being the second choice. So
Yes.
that motion's on the table.
Thank
Okay.
you. Second,
For
anyone?
a second?
Could you repeat the motion, please?
Motion is to first reach out to, is it Magistrate Chisholm? Is that proper? And then Steve Hitchcock from Jamarco Mullins
I'll
as the second
second that.
choice.
Roll
Roll
call.
call. Councilmember Shepherd.
No.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Mayor Milan.
Yes.
Councilmember Sampson.
No.
So I'm just going to say that I know we have 2 and 2 here, and people want to look at this like it's a us versus them thing. This is not a us versus them. This is a us. This is a me personally for the citizens of Clawson. I don't know where anyone else stands on this committee. And I will say, sticking to a hard line to say my way or no way, where we're going to sit here on this night or any other night until we get a 5th person, is not wise for any of us or for any of the rest of Clawson. I made a motion that would give you what you want, and then offer another option. If we can't do that,
Madam Mayor?
then what are we doing? I'm talking still, and I'm going to instill that nobody gets to talk unless I give you permission to talk, because I'm tired of being interrupted. And as the chair of this committee, you get to ask for permission to speak. So when I'm finished speaking, I'll be happy to yield the floor. So I'm going to ask if we can think again about what's best for everyone in this community and not a winning situation, because that's why we're here in the first place, because people wanted to win over something that was done not well. So please, can we move on? I don't know if anyone else has something else they would like to add or perhaps amend a motion, but I think we need to have a little conciliation here. And yes,
Madam Mayor?
yes, sir.
So I think we've all come to a consensus that Don Chisholm is everybody's choice.
He's not my choice.
So-
I'm conceding to be conciliatory.
You
He's
voted for
absolutely
him
not my choice.
as a second
I
choice.
voted for him as a peace offering for this committee. That's why I did it. I want it to be clear that he's not my choice, yet I can concede and vote for him because I know he's important to you two, seemingly. So that's why I'm doing it, and I want that to be known.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir?
I would suggest that since Don Chisholm has come up as a name that we have all voted for, whether it's first or second, that I make a motion that Don Chisholm is reached out to for this decision.
Only one choice.
Only one choice.
I'll second it.
Do you have any conversation?
I'm sorry.
Does anyone want to discuss that motion? I will. That's unacceptable. We're not selecting one name because I do not want to have to do this again, nor does anyone else up here want to do this again. So we can't leave here tonight because we've not addressed this question to any of these individuals that are on the list. Therefore, we need to have a backup plan, at least one backup plan, so that we don't have to come back and beat our heads against the wall one more time trying to come up with an answer. So we do need to have a backup plan.
If I may, Mayor. I guess we're doing the back and forth negotiation. I don't know how well this is really working out, but I agree a backup plan is best, so we don't have to have more meetings. Can we sweeten the pot and have 2 backups, a first, second, and a third? Will that satisfy everyone? I know that complicates everything, but God knows I want to break this impasse, so.
We have a motion on the table, so.
We have a motion and a second that we have to vote on, so.
Okay, let's do the vote on the one name only, right? He made a motion for Mr. Chisholm only, so let's vote on that.
Well, you can always modify that.
He can modify it.
You
right?
guys can, there's a way to do it. If it's something you want to add a name, you say, I want to amend the motion to include a second person. And you have to have a motion for that. Then you vote on that motion, then you go back to the original motion and either don't add something or add something. That's how you properly do this.
Okay.
You don't need to stop one and start another. It can be modified.
So we're going to vote on the motion as it stands right now? Yes, Madam Mayor. Councilman Anderson.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the motion, please?
Don Chisholm as the only option to reach out to.
No.
Mayor Milan.
No.
Councilmember Sampson.
Yep.
Councilman Shepherd.
Yes.
That fails.
May I make a suggestion?
Yes, you may.
could we recess for a few minutes, make contact with Mr. Chisholm on the phone, give him a brief and confirm if he would be interested? If he is, we could come back and give that information to council, who could make that motion if he is, to move forward so we wouldn't have a second night.
How long do you need? 10 minutes?
Yeah, maybe 10. If, I mean,
Mayor, point of order.
we would do that if that's mayor and council's
There
wish.
you go.
I'd like to be part of the call.
Not a problem.
Thanks. Okay, we're going to recess for various reasons.
Do you have a time to come back, Madam Mayor?
10 minutes. 15 minutes, 15?
You want to target something, so,
Sure, let's say we'll be back at 8:30.
okay.
Why don't you make it
back after our brief little pause to conduct business that didn't help us out at all.
Yeah, so if I may update the body, obviously, I had a conversation with Magistrate Chisholm. Magistrate Chisholm indicated to me that he is indeed fully retired, and he means every word of that fully retired part, apparently. And I didn't think, which doesn't bode well when I tell my wife that I'll never be able to retire because lawyers never retire. Apparently they do. So, obviously that's not helpful. May I, if I may also before your prior, obviously there may be an impasse here. If there's an impasse here, Section 504 of the Charter says special elections shall be held when called by resolution of the council at least 21 days in advance of such election, or when required by this charter, general laws of the state. Any resolution calling a special election shall set forth the purpose of such election. We may be inching close towards that if this body cannot reach a decision.
Well, I would hope that this body can respect the residents of this town enough to know that we do not want to take on that expense to have a special election for something such as this. So,
And so, I mean, obviously, and I know, Madam Mayor, if I may, obviously you know that you do have an election coming up in May.
That's the earliest possible date.
Possible
Earliest
date.
possible date is May.
Yes.
true, but we can't keep our council vacant until May.
Right.
And out of respect to the residents, we can't keep our council vacant for that long, nor can we just bring someone back if people feel like it was not right in the first place. So we're here to make tough decisions, and we need to continue to make a tough decision. And I'm going to go back to the beginning with my points. I want someone who has municipal experience. I will not concede on that one. I'd like us to have at least, we're going to need at least 2 names. I think this conversation that we just had proves that this is not going to be as simple perhaps as we want, because our names were not vetted, our people were not vetted prior. These are just people that someone may know and know they have the experience and the criteria that we most likely would be looking for, and that's what we're going off of. So we need to come to some kind of a conclusion where we work together, and I'm going to implore
Madam
people to do
Mayor?
that. Mr. Anderson.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Madam Mayor, if I could ask the attorney, I mean, I just, so I think unfortunately Mr. Chisholm's not available to serve, and I respect a person who wants to stay retired. Since we all seem to agree he was a first choice, can we have him please make some recommendations in accordance with, I think, maybe some things we've already agreed upon? One is that they have municipal experience. No, there's not necessarily a magistrate, but just somebody with municipal city. And if not, then I'll suggest my sister again, the adoption attorney.
I'll take her at this point myself. So, yeah, absolutely. So in the call, I did ask, but obviously, I did ask who he would recommend. He spoke about a couple of people, but we can make it a formal request that he select. That may make sense. That will give him time. Obviously, the call was just out of the blue call at 8:30 in the evening from me. I don't think that he was necessarily expecting that call tonight.
He wasn't ready to sit there.
Yeah.
I got a list of 10 guys
But
I'll give you.
Right, precisely. But he obviously is someone that's been around in the community for a long time, and his practice for a long time. He would know a lot of attorneys. I think we would respect his judgment. You can make such a motion. You can have a motion that that much. That's just a recommendation. It's a referral from an attorney.
Okay.
So.
And in asking Mr. Chisholm to make these recommendations in advance, I think we've mentioned, one, has to have municipal experience. I think the mayor's made that clear, and she's dug her heels in. I don't think she's given in on that. Okay. Number 2, I think both Mr. Sampson and Mr. Shepard have said you want a certain geographic distance. Is that still the case?
I guess at this point, I would say that if I don't want to hold back Mr. Chisholm's decision-making with that. I think if he can find the person that is the most qualified, I would entrust that would be the proper decision. So I would say let him make that decision without any stipulation or caveat.
Lou, do you agree with that? That geography is not necessarily a constraint here?
What are we talking, we don't have a motion yet. Why are we talking about something?
I guess, I'm sorry, am I out of order?
Yep, you got to make a
sorry.
motion in a second.
I don't think you're out of order because we're having a discussion.
But need a
You can
motion
make
in
such a
second.
motion, and then it'll be on the table.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we have discussion regarding selecting a city attorney that is organic and just makes sense. Oh, yeah, city attorney. Oh, sorry about that, Rose.
He is organic.
That's my
I can-
smile
He's
just
real.
right out.
He's not a robot.
Thank you, Ms. Moffett.
We are looking for
Yeah, right,
a city,
right.
I am actually looking for a city attorney, so there we go. That is part of my criteria, correct? I take that back. So I think, I would hate to defer to someone to make a decision for us for another time, because we don't have a lot of time. I think we're responsible to try and rectify this within 30 days.
If you-
Taking us outside of this meeting tonight doesn't even make sense. We have a list of people. There is a Mr. Burns who has practiced in Brighton for over 40 years. I don't know if anyone looked him up. He's also municipal attorney. Brighton is in Livingston County, if I'm not mistaken. That's at least one separation from Oakland, and it goes the other way, so it's even farther. I would say if anyone's checked him out, he seems like an experienced man, worked for Brighton. Brighton has lots of stuff. Brighton has lots of good stuff going on in Brighton. If you follow Brighton, they're not Clausen, but they're growing. They've seen lots of things, so he's probably experienced a lot. Again, we don't know if he's available, but he is an option, and he is outside of our area. Yes, sir?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion, we select Donald Denelt with the secondary. If he doesn't do it, then you immediately go to Magistrate Chisholm, or is it his honor?
I'm sorry,
Is it Chisholm a magistrate or a
magistrate.
magistrate up Chisholm, and have him select?
That would work for you,
And we go with
anybody?
that.
Suppose you need a second. Okay, great. I'll say let's not have discussion and let's vote on that.
Mayor Milan.
I'll say no.
Councilmember Sampson.
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
No.
So if we're just going to throw stuff out there, then I'm going to say that I would like Mr. Hitchcock from Gianmarco Mullins, and then my backup is Mr. Burns from Paul E. Burns Law Office, and that will do it for me. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Sampson.
No.
Councilmember Shepherd.
No.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Mayor Milan.
Yes. So for
Madam
those
Mayor.
of you playing along, you can see what just happened, right? That was a little bit deliberate attempt to do this is how we want to play. And I'm going to say this is not how we want to play. Everyone's going to need to concede somewhere. I've not seen people on this platform concede somewhere. Can we please go halfway so that we can do something for our residents?
Now that you just said that, I think we've all conceded. We've all went to different people. I just made the best one. We all were heading towards Don Denalt.
No, we weren't.
Well, it seemed like it was a pretty good deal. So
Okay.
I make a motion, we just go with Magistrate Chisholm to select it.
didn't elect him, we elected you guys. Sorry
Yeah.
for speaking out, but that's.
You want to keep the audience quiet?
No, I don't have a problem with audience participation. I like audience
Point of
participation.
order. There's a time and a place for that.
I'm still running the meeting, I think.
Good point of order.
Thank you. Thanks for noticing.
If I may,
Yes, sir.
The motion was,
I think-
sir, I didn't.
The motion is to go with Magistrate Chisholm's, his selection.
Once again, didn't
no.
Second.
So Magistrate Chisholm we asked him on the phone if he had any recommendations. He didn't have any recommendations. He doesn't work for our community. He doesn't have to give us recommendations. We have recommendations from people who have some knowledge of people, which is better than going to a gentleman that we don't know who doesn't even have to play along with us. Let's just make some selections from the names that we were given today and move on. But saying that, does anyone else have any comments? And then we'll go to roll call again.
I do.
Thank you.
We're groping here to find some common ground. Right now, about the only point of common ground right now is Mr. Chisholm. Mr. Chisholm unfortunately has declined our appeal. We've asked him some names. We called him with very little notice. He had no time to contemplate and think about what he'd recommend. I don't think we should be abdicating our responsibility on council by just saying, Mr. Chisholm, make the call for us. Well, I think the good news is Mr. Chisholm is a point of agreement. So unfortunately, Madam Mayor, I don't know that we can decide this today. I would love to. I just don't think it's going to happen. We've reached an important point. Mr. Chisholm is agreeable to all of us at some level. I don't think Mr. Chisholm should make the choice, but I think we should give Mr. Chisholm a few days or a week to come up with a short list of nominees. And then from that list, we in the council vote. I know I'd love to get that resolved today, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Is that your motion?
Did a motion?
There is a motion on the floor.
Can I have comment on the motion, or shall I just make the motion?
We have one on the
We have a
floor.
motion
It's
already.
motion and seconded.
Okay,
Yes.
so shall I formally state the motion then?
No, there's another motion already on the
Yeah,
floor.
which was to have Magistrate Chisholm make the selection for us, correct, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'd like to
Well,
reiterate.
actually,
Excuse me.
no,
I'm speaking.
no,
I'm
okay,
speaking. I'm still speaking.
it's still my motion. You just asked me a question on it.
No, he doesn't get to ask you a question unless I say you can speak. I was speaking. I was mid-sentence and you started talking over me. No.
Okay.
So it is not Mr. Chisholm's responsibility to resolve this for us. I don't feel like we should call him again. We spoke with him once. He said what he wanted to. We put him on the spot. It is not his responsibility. It is our responsibility. We need to decide this outside of him. It is not his call to give us a list of names.
It was somebody's suggestion other than mine. I didn't dream this up myself to have him selected. So there's somebody other than me on this dais that thought of it too.
Doesn't make it a good idea.
Well,
No,
how do you want me to change the motion?
please state your motion so I understand
My
exactly.
motion was to have Chisholm select. You want me to have Chisholm provide a list?
That's correct. I do not think Mr. Chisholm should make a selection,
Okay.
but I
Yeah,
think
I'm good
because
with
he
that.
appears to be the one common point we can find here,
Okay.
in essence, we're looking for a mediator to find the mediators.
Yeah.
As pathetic as that is, we may have finally reached that point.
No.
You can modify my motion to read that. Who seconded it?
So you want to modify the motion for the list?
Or let-
From Chisholm.
Is that, you seconded it, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'll second that, yep.
Okay. Mr. Chisholm provides a list. By when?
Oh, we'll have to.
Hold on.
Hold on.
If I make a suggestion to the
Yeah.
motion? First of all, we should have a time limit and also a number limit. I don't think we need to get 7 names
Three.
from him.
3, 2?
At least 3.
What if he's not interested in providing any?
No,
Then
we-
we've put
then-
ourselves off another week, and we just made ourselves look ridiculous because we can't come up with, we have a list of names, and we don't trust each other enough to be able to concede to anything. So we're going to ask someone that we don't personally know, who's a professional, to make a professional decision for us that he shouldn't have to make because he owes us nothing.
He's going to provide us a list.
Do you think he's going to provide us a list?
Yeah.
He's going to watch this meeting and go, what the heck? No, I'm not providing them a list.
Oh, but how many days, how long, Rennis?
It would be I think you perhaps, if I may, counsel perhaps needs to think about it not as Mr. Chisholm making the decision. I think it's appropriate that he did not make the decision. The council obviously made the decision because it's your
Yeah.
attorney-client relationship. However, think about it as in terms of Mr. Chisholm referring an attorney, which is what I would be doing, but for obvious reasons, we're moving away from that. He's giving us referrals, and you can say we're requesting 3 referrals from Mr. Chisholm. I think that perhaps may be the middle ground that Mr. Anderson
3 in
is seeking.
what period of time?
I'm sorry?
3 in
I can't tell you, but I mean, I'll call him right as we get out, and then I'll have him start thinking about it. He'll probably do so within the next couple of days.
So why is he the magic guy all of a sudden?
Hold on,
Please
let-
explain
let
that
the
to me,
mayor-
people.
let the mayor.
I'd like to know. Nobody knew him coming in supposedly, and then we have 2 people vet him, and all of a sudden, he's the guy. Why is he the guy to just give you a list over people that are on the list that have qualifications that we could choose from? What makes him so special?
Well, because he doesn't have any donations.
clearly has
He doesn't have any lawn
connections.
signs. He doesn't have anything to do with this.
Maybe, does he eat at WTF or Downtown Charlie's? Do we
I
need
don't
to
know.
check and make sure
I
he's
would.
never been there?
I would.
Like, do we have to check that too? Because
would.
everyone has connections somewhere. You guys might go to the same credit union. I mean, come on.
Oh, we got a motion, we got to,
Still running the meeting. I'm still thinking.
And the motion's not
Roll call,
fully defined.
please.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
No.
Mayor Milan.
No.
Councilmember Sampson.
yes.
And
You give me everything.
Hold on. If I may speak, Madam Mayor, I voted no just because I didn't think the motion was fully defined. So I'm willing to,
Make a motion.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we request from Magistrate Chisholm to select no less than 3 names that could be provided to us by next Monday, from which we can then make a decision out of those 3.
I'll support that.
By Monday, what's the date Monday?
Is it 29th?
29th or 30th? All right, by Monday.
Any conversation? Roll call?
Councilmember Anderson.
yes.
Mayor Milan.
Nope.
Councilmember Sampson.
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
That passes.
I'm so disappointed that people just abdicated their responsibility and passed it off, and some people might think this is very amusing. I find it really deplorable that people wanted to just wipe their hands of something, not be responsible. You guys did something dirty to get us to this place now, and you're going to continue along and just drag this city through the mud as long as you can go. And I guarantee the 3 names that come back from Mr. Chisholm, should he be gracious enough to do this, there'll be something wrong with as well. But great, good luck to our residents. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. I'm sorry it was an exercise in futility. I'd like to call this meeting to a close.
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Second.
I just did that.
Can't do that.
I'm sorry.
We had questions brought up.
Come on up. Public discussion, come on up.
I
Madam Mayor, we
apologize.
have a
I
motion to
understand.
adjourn.
We didn't adjourn
There
yet,
were
did we? And
questions
when you
asked-
get the seat, if you get elected mayor pro tem, you can do whatever you want. Until then, I'm sitting here and I will do what I can within the constraints of our charter and Robert's Rules of Order, which does allow for public discussion should someone else want to speak again. So go ahead.
Specifically for items that were not on the agenda, so since we're skipping to that point. One of the other citizens asked Mr. Nujai, I'm sorry.
You're fine.
I'm doing it. So it was a question specifically about the meeting on the 3rd.
I can address that question right now, if you would like me to.
If I could, though.
Let him ask the
I'm
question.
sorry.
I'm going to come to you, because this is the entire thing that's just bizarre to me. Mr. George's appointment expired on what day?
I don't know what that is, sir.
This is the picture of the city website that shows every city councilman and their term limits. And it says here that they expired on the 2nd
Yes,
of November.
I'm happy to address that.
Thank you. Just one other thing.
Sure.
Mr. Shepherd, who was appointed to his position, nothing against him, but what day is that saying that?
The 2nd, it says.
The 2nd, okay. One more. Susan Moffett, her term expired on what day?
Second.
The 2nd, okay. The last one is the most important. Mr. Sampson, his term expires the 7th, no. His expires in July of 2023. So he was sworn in, absolutely legitimate to make a motion or to vote or do anything he wanted to. But everybody else on council on the 3rd was not in a position to set up a quorum. So I feel like this decision is so much simpler than it is. If they didn't have a quorum on that time, at that time for that meeting, everything else is moot. So thank you for helping answer this question.
Yeah. So, council member terms of office, section 402 says the mayor shall hold office for a term of 2 years from the second Monday following the regular city election in which he was elected. She, of course, didn't exist at the time. Each council member shall hold office for a term of 4 years from the second Monday following the regular city election in which they were elected. 2 council members shall be elected every 2 years. The answer that follows thereafter is, and the point, and I could address this because it doesn't deal with a conflict issue, and actually I should have addressed it I don't think it occurred to me at the time that was asked by a young lady that appeared on council to ask the same question as you did. The term of office what goes until the organizational meeting when the new council members are sworn in and relieve the duties of the members of council that are seated. So to state that the members' terms are terminated at November 2nd when we elect them is an absolute falsehood, has no leg to stand on. I'll give you the following reason, or a thought to keep in mind. We elect the President of the United States every November 2nd every 4 years, right? And that person serves this country until January 20 of the following year, January 20th of the following year. It's the same concept at play. And I think we're conflagrating the issues, and we're creating issues where there are not. There's a lot of issues to be determined here, and those issues are appropriate to be handled by an attorney given our recusal, and they're crucial to the well-being of the city, obviously. But I think that is confusing the terms of office and casting doubt that is unwittingly, but inappropriate for purposes of what we're doing here today. The November 3rd meeting was not an illegal meeting. On the contrary, it was a perfectly normal, ordinary meeting of the Clawson City Council. The decisions that you seek to address, those are perfectly appropriate for any member of any citizen of the city of Clawson to raise issues. As I've indicated, but perhaps not succinctly enough on prior occasion, any citizen of the city of Clawson has standing to challenge the appointment of Mr. Georges in a court of law. That's the proper decision. The mental gymnastics that unfortunately council has to engage in is because nobody's done that yet. Had anybody had done that, we'd have a decision. It's just a simple declaratory judgment. It's a simple DAC action. In the circuit court of this great county, we have 1,000 of those. We would have had the decision already. Pardon my frustration. I thank you for your question. It's very appropriate, but that is the answer to that question. Yes, ma'am.
So, appointed position versus elected position?
There's no difference, ma'am. I mean, because it wasn't articulated. They didn't state it. So the gentleman actually, I'm sorry, if I may address one more, Your Honor. The gentleman points out, I presume it's from the city website. Yeah, the terms of office that's listed over there. Wholesale wrong. I went and reviewed the motions for the appointment. There was no indication with respect to term of office at the time. Council could have appointed them to exactly a term of office, right? They could have said, pursuant to our authority under the charter, we appoint the following members from X date to X date. Of course. But they didn't in the motions. And I think that's why council is in this particular preview. Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Here I come again, that I didn't think I'd be doing this. I know none of you, other than Lou, and I've known him for a while. These two gentlemen were appointed to this position. An election was held. We voted, and we did not vote Mr. Georges, who, if he was sitting next to me, I would not know him. The shenanigans that put him on there is what made this whole circus that this city is right now. And we're all appalled. I'm here because I can't explain to us, explain to the city, and nobody's here now because it's such a circus, they don't want to be here. And I don't get it, why we would think we would have to put someone in that when we voted, we didn't put him there. And why should 2 people or 3 people say, put him there, when we said we don't want him there? I don't get it. And now we're arguing 2 to 2, paying more money to another attorney, trying to get someone to decide for us when we've decided we don't want him there. Explain it to me.
I wish I could, and I share your frustration. That's all I can say. I wish
It's
I could.
aggravating.
There's 2 seats up, there's 3 seats vacated because people had to quit.
Does anyone have anything else?
Explain that. Well, I asked a question, and you were allowed to talk, so I just asked him to.
I thought you were having a sidebar.
No, I
Sorry,
was saying
if
that
you
this-
like,
I
if you have a
want-
question, go right ahead.
I want an explanation.
I'm sorry.
Could you
state
repeat
one
the
more-
question
could you
so we
repeat the
can all
question?
hear
I'm sorry,
it?
Mr. Sampson. I apologize. Could you ask me one more time?
explain that, how the elections worked. There was 2 seats open. There was 3 vacancies due to people having to get off the board.
Yep.
And it ended up, explain how, so people don't think that everything was perfectly all right what we did. It's,
You can't say things were perfectly right, what you
So,
did.
I can address the issue because I think actually the gentlelady asked prior, and I don't think I addressed her prior question with respect to the initial question that the gentlelady asked. There were 2 seats on council. There were 2 4-year terms pursuant to how our elections are set up. Every 4 years, 2 members of council run, and then the next 2 years thereafter, the next two 4-year terms run. We had 2 of those seats that were up for the regularly scheduled election. Okay, and in order, we have another charter provision of our charter that states that in order to run for any position, any other position in the city or thereafter, you have to resign. Okay. In order to run for the mayor's seats, 2 members of our Clawson City Council at the time resigned. One being Mayor Paul Milan, one being former council member Kathy Phillips. Mayor Milan's seat on council at the time ended at the end of that was the end of her term, so her seat would be up at that time. Her 4-year term was up in that regular election. Council member Phillips' term was in the middle of it. She was at the 2-year term. So the moment she resigned, it created a vacancy on council. Your question is, why did we not vote for that seat? The resignation and the acceptance of, I'm getting there, ma'am, the resignation and the acceptance of the resignation from Kathy Phillips occurred after the filing deadline, which was July 20th. Council accepted that resignation on July 26th. Therefore, properly pursuant to law, nobody could vote for that seat because nobody could run for that seat because the availability, the vacancy didn't exist prior to July 20th, which is what should have happened, what would have needed to have happened in order for somebody to vote for that 3rd seat. Therefore, pursuant to its authority under the charter, the Clawson City Council had the opportunity to vote and fill that seat. Now, the deeper explanation, that's, just to address your point, sir, the deeper explanation, you and I can connect thereafter, and as I've done with many other members of the community, I've shared a couple of opinions. One opinion in particular deals with that particular issue. I'm happy to share it with you if you have any questions thereafter. I'm always available, as I've been available to anybody. This is an important issue. Doesn't address the full point of your argument, because the balance of your argument, which I'm not addressing at all with respect to, quote unquote, the shenanigans that have transpired, I cannot address that particular point. However, I leave your comments to what they are, and I will address the remainder of the balance of it if you have any additional questions after we get off this meeting. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, may I make a comment?
Of course.
Rennis, that's pretty much what you told me in our conversation on August 27th, approximately. So you've been consistent in that respect. Let me just share, this is an email you sent to my personal email since I was still a private citizen at the point. And you sent it to Dear Mayor-elect Milan and Council Member-elect Anderson. Congratulations on your election on behalf of us at City Hall. I wish you the best in your future roles. This morning, I sent a memorandum to the Clawson City Council concerning the vacancy on council. I believe that it is important and necessary for the 2 of you to review the memo, as well as I believe it will fall on you to deal with the vacancy. Given that the charter only allows for 30 days for appointment, I would imagine it wise for you to come prepared at the organizational meeting to deal with that issue. I've attached the letter to the email. If you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact me. When I received this email, it was Wednesday, 10:45 a.m., just 9 hours before the organizational meeting. So I looked at this and said, look like, Rennis is reminding me of something he told me back in August, that it will fall on, he says, now repeat, I believe it will fall on you to deal with the vacancy. Okay, and then I took your letter, and the letter basically said the same thing. It said, at the conclusion of this election, upon the seating of the new members, a new vacancy will exist with respect to former council member Phillips' seat. As such, council then will need to make an appointment pursuant to section 4.31 of the charter within 30 days of the vacancy. both these communications are consistent. But then when I arrived at the organizational meeting, what transpired was something entirely different. And that's why the room exploded, all right? And that's why these people are referring to shenanigans, call it legal political maneuvering, whatever it is. But that was your position at that time.
Still is.
It was all,
Yeah.
okay. Well, that did not happen.
I understand. But
What
what's your
happened
point?
was, I'll continue to recount the
I'm
events.
sorry, I
It's really-
apologize.
It's okay, I understand.
No problem.
So after we watched the back and forth, George resigned, we approve. I nominate you, George, good. And as the room was turning to tumult, and I guarantee you it wasn't confined to these four walls. I guarantee you there are hundreds of people watching remotely, basically screaming at their television sets. We just couldn't hear them scream. Once that occurred, and that was it, I approached you, Rennis, and I said, Rennis, what just happened? You were silent during that whole matter. In other words, what I saw transpire did not agree with these two communications. And you basically said, correct me if I'm wrong, I might not, well, I can't stop counsel from doing what they're going to do.
Correct.
Okay, I agree, you can't stop the counsel. A doctor may have an alcoholic patient. If the patient decides to drink a fifth of whiskey, he can't grab the bottle from his alcoholic patient. But he can scream at the top of his lungs, hey, patient, don't do that, it's bad for you. So what I was really looking for you on that day was to just yell, excuse me, counsel, I don't believe what you're doing is in accordance with the charter. And oh, by the way, I've sent a few communications to that effect.
I think
That.
if that decision, if I were to have involved myself in that political, and we're going to know the answer to that question, whether the actions by council were appropriate or not. We're going to know that when we receive an opinion or when somebody, God willing, somebody actually challenges the actions and we receive a decision from a court of law, which is the appropriate thing that ought to happen every time we have an issue with the actions of council. We're going to receive that answer to the actions of council, whether they were appropriate or not. However, for myself, as you will note, if you read the balance of the letter, if the subsequent letter that I sent to council, and I believe you received as well, if you read the balance of my next opinion, and which I promised to share with the gentlelady if she so wishes, you will find in there that, in my humble opinion, and this is a legal opinion, not just an opinion, in order for the city attorney, city manager, city clerk, any city, anything in the administration of this fair city to involve themselves in the political decisions of the body is wholesale inappropriate. If I were to do that, that would be wholesale inappropriate. Now, because I would be taking sides, or any member of the city would be taking sides, saying something is right versus something is wrong in the political decisions that happen in the city, in the political deliberations of the city. These are important decisions. I couldn't agree more with you. I couldn't agree more with you. But to ask for a city attorney or a city manager or a clerk or anybody else to have sort of veto power over the decisions of council is absurd. You can't, and I know you don't mean it that way. I don't, I know that. I mean, you're asking, this is an important debate. I couldn't agree with you more. It's an important debate in the city, and the ramifications of it are not lost on me, just like they're not lost on you. I know that, obviously, which is why we're talking, why we've been talking, why we're having this special meeting to be able to address these issues, because they're critically important. But again, to have members of staff address or tip the scale, put their hands on, no, council member, that's right or that's wrong, on an issue, on what is basically political determinations. You wouldn't want that reality. Nobody would want that reality. And actually, if I were to do that, or if anybody here were to do that, that would be a decision that would be challenged in a court of law, and successfully so, I can guarantee you that. And I would never be able to do so because, and I think the comment that I made to you at the time, but I didn't elaborate, but I elaborated on my letter thereafter, was there is no role for the attorney to be involved, I think is the comment that I made to you. Because that's the comment that I subsequently elucidated on. And there is no role for the attorney, there is no role for the city manager, there is no role for the clerk or anybody else. I understand how frustrating that is. I get it. Of course. It would be the easiest thing to have somebody to sit here and be judge, jury, and executioner with respect to some of those decisions, right? It would certainly make this act a lot smoother, but that's not the system we operate under. It's just not. And so for any of us to be involved in that regard will be wholesale incorrect. I, for one, will be the last one to ever violate the rules of my professional responsibility in order to act as judge, because we're treating me as judge perhaps, and I appreciate the vote of confidence, and I'll take your votes on it, but I'm not elected yet. We have a place and a time designated for those things, and it's the Oakland County Circuit Court. So, again, I get it. I understand the frustration. For better or for worse, we're inching closer towards it, maybe not as fast as we want to, but we're inching closer towards it. If anything, I'll tell you what, at least George has taken the road that he's not appearing on this council meeting, because you could have that kind of situation as well. We can have that kind of, anyways, that's an issue for another day. But thank you, again.
I appreciate the fact that Mr. Georges has taken the honorable tack and not been here. I appreciate that.
That's my point, yeah.
And I agree with you. You don't have veto power. You're not an elected member, but you are contracted by this city to provide legal advice.
Yes.
You have done that in a series of emails and letters, and I appreciate that. Sure. I think my contention is, essentially, old council ignored your advice as communicated in these emails.
Sure, absolutely.
You made it clear that it should be the new council, the old went ahead and took action.
Yeah.
I agree, you couldn't stop them, veto over them, or have Scott arrest them. That's not appropriate. Okay, however, as our council, we expect you to advise.
You're expecting correctly, sir. With respect to that, that's a violation of the rules of professional responsibility. It's a violation of the rules. What you're asking me is, Rennes, go ahead and give up your license to practice law. It can't be done. No attorney would ever be able to do that, to take part in the political considerations of the city. And if anybody were to do that, that's wholesale incorrect. That's not a reality we want to live in.
But I'm new to this process, but I don't believe what occurred was a political process. I think it was a legal process.
I beg to differ. Yeah, you're going to talk about the legality of the action all day. You're absolutely right about that. We're going to get a determination at one point or another, one way or another. It's going to have to happen. We're going to get a determination whether the actions of council were appropriate or not. But as far as it being a legal process, in the sense of a legal process where, because your point is a legal process whereby the attorney would opine on the legality of the action, right? I couldn't. It would be improper for me to do so.
So you could not, but apparently we're now going to resolve this at some level outside Clawson.
Absolutely.
I mean, let's put it bluntly. I think all the citizens of the city would prefer that Clawson's affairs be decided
I couldn't
within
agree
Clawson.
more. I couldn't agree more.
But we're at the point now, we're reaching, whether it's an outside mediator
Well, you can
or
select
the
somebody
Oakland
from
County
Clawson.
Circuit Court.
Yeah.
We're reaching outside. These things are obviously not desirable, but this is where we are.
No, 2 different points with respect to that. Oakland County Circuit Court, that's the location where this decision needs to be made ultimately. That's the appropriate place for it, because that's a court that has jurisdiction on the matter. If anybody challenges, all 12,000 citizens can. If anybody challenges, that's where the decision goes. So you may deem it, and I understand your point, I mean, it's not lost on me, you may deem it as an outsider meddling in the issues, but it's an outsider with authorized under letter of law.
Absolutely.
With respect to the other point, yeah, I conceded to you. Sure, I couldn't agree more. Decisions of this body should be made by this body within, or to the extent possible, made within the city. But again, my firm, I think my actions have been consistent throughout. My firm recused ourselves on that issue for that specific reason, for the reason that, we're speaking about here tonight, okay? Can't make the decision. We represent the entire body. The moment there's fracture, giving a benefit to one to the detriment of the other, can't do that, cannot represent this body. And this is not a rule that we're creating for purposes of this body. It's a rule that applies in corporate America all over the place, right? Municipal bodies all over the place, any legislative bodies. We're the general counsel for the council, okay? So the determination we couldn't make. That's the point.
All right, then I have another legal question for you.
Yes, sir.
You will answer legal questions.
All day.
Okay,
All
good,
day.
good.
Nobody's ever been able to shut me up yet, so.
All right. So we currently are reaching for a mediator.
You're not.
Actually,
You're
I'm
reaching
sorry.
for an attorney.
We're reaching for, we're asking a.
Independent counsel opinion.
Independent counsel to give us several names to choose from.
I'm sorry, correct, with respect to your motion, yes.
Ms. Milan, Mayor Milan has shown her displeasure with that, and I.
Action of the body, doesn't matter.
Exactly. So,
Wait, what did you just say?
Action of the body, that means it's your action as well, ma'am.
Yeah.
I understand that what this body does and the previous body did, no matter how I voted individually, it is an action of the body. Doesn't mean I have to be proud of the action of the body. So thank you for
Fair
stating
enough.
the obvious.
Yep.
Okay. how will this play out? Okay, we presumably will obtain a mediator at some point. Meanwhile, we have citizens that are threatening a lawsuit through Oakland County Circuit Court.
I pray that happens. I pray that happens. That's the appropriate action. I've been begging for it.
Take the case.
I pray that that happens. That's the appropriate action. We think about it, and perhaps my sensitivities are a lot different than the average sensitivities of the average citizen who's not an attorney. I certainly understand that, right? We're creatures of the court, and therefore we think of court action as perfectly appropriate. It is. In this particular instance, or any similar instance, it is the appropriate action to be taken. When we have an issue dealing with the propriety or impropriety of the actions of a city, of a council, of a legislative body such as this one, yeah, I mean, that's the action. There's nothing else. There's nothing wrong with it, actually. And I can say it's some sort, without going too far out in the weeds, I could think of 5 different causes of action. They're all simple and straightforward, and they would net us a decision in record time. I don't think we're going to have a decision from an independent attorney before we would get a decision from the Oakland County Circuit Court, even knowing the Oakland County Circuit Court is inundated in cases.
All right, then I guess for clarification, is it your recommendation that instead of finding a mediator, we simply go to Oakland County Court?
This body won't, or any member of the body
Just
can.
asking for a recommendation.
Yeah, no, I understand your point, and I'm giving you the legality behind your question. This body cannot, right? But any member of the body can, any member in your individual capacity, any one of you can. In the individual capacity, any citizen of the city of Clawson can challenge any decision of this body, of course. The reason why the body can is because the decisions, again, are the decisions of the body.
I understand. Individuals versus the body, I
Sure,
understand.
sure.
Okay, you've answered all my questions for now.
Thank you. And sorry, perhaps this conversation should have happened a long time ago.
Maybe so.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
No,
but
I mean, I for one say, yeah, to the extent that we should have had this before, I'm actually grateful. I apologize, and I'm grateful that we actually had the opportunity to have it today. Thank you.
So out of all that you said, you noted several times that political determinations were the problem, and you weren't able to intercede because it's not your role, but you kept saying political determinations, and I find onus with that because this board, although we represent a political entity being a government, should not be a political board. The decisions that were made on November 3rd should not have been made in a political manner, and that was the only reason they were made. The inability to act tonight was political. The inability to be able to select a city, a mayor pro tem in any capacity, whether it be long-term or for 30 days, was also political. I didn't sign up for this to be political. The gentleman who's no longer sitting with us told me on his way out, don't worry, it's just political. I don't know, I'm a political science major. I love politics, I love the animal of it, I don't love the dirt of it, and this place is getting a little dirty, and I'm gonna ask that perhaps we stop doing that and remember why we're here, which I already gave that speech in the beginning of the night, and I'm kinda tired, so I'm gonna call for an adjournment. If anyone would like to second that.
We had a vote already.
Motion's already taken.
It's already taken care of.
So you want to second the adjournment motion? Or do you want to?
You can do that.
There was a motion that just kind of died, so what?
I called for an adjournment originally, and then someone did something, and then said I
Okay, so
called for a motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn by Mayor Milan.
Which means the same thing, right?
Sampson,
Yes.
Shepherd,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Milan.
Yes.
We are adjourned at 9:15.
Thank you, everyone.